Hello again, I'm Dr. Clark from Copacetic, and we're here with Rebecca, who has generously offered to share her health journey and her struggles and her triumphs so that others can feel that they're not in isolation. We have an epidemic of autoimmune conditions these days, and basically, for those who don't know, it's what occurs when your immune system has difficulty differentiating self from other. So it's almost like you're fighting with yourself internally. Your body's constantly fighting against itself and causing these inflammatory cascades that then lead to dysfunction, oftentimes pain, digestive disorders, and sometimes affects the mind as well. Rebecca has a really interesting story. It's unique, as honestly all autoimmune stories and conditions are unique and have to be addressed in a bespoke way. And we've been working together for how long now? Maybe
I think
a
it's
year?
been like 9 or 10 months.
9 or 10 months. And we've had some triumphs, and we've had some setbacks. Obviously, I think we're doing something right, or else you wouldn't be coming back.
Yes, definitely we are.
I'm actually, I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say.
Thanks.
So, you mind sharing from the beginning?
Okay.
So as well as you can remember when you started to experience this sort of dis-ease that you started to experience.
Okay, sure. So in the beginning, I would say I was 19 and I'm 39 now. So it's been a 20-year journey. And when I was 19, I just started my first semester of college, and all of a sudden I just got hit with a lot of fatigue. And I didn't know why. I thought it was just because I was, starting college, new classes, new schedule, just life change. And then no, it was lasting for a long time and it wasn't getting better. So I went to my primary care, she did blood work, and it came back that I actually had mono. And so she said, your numbers are just through the roof, off the charts. She said, I can't believe you didn't end up in the hospital. She said, your numbers are so high right now. She said she was afraid to even know what they were when I first got sick. And so I was already starting to recover, and my symptoms, the extreme fatigue was getting less. So that was it. There really wasn't a treatment. She just said, get rest, try to make sure you're sleeping enough, stay hydrated, and that was it. So then I was also, of course, you gotta work. You gotta work, put yourself through college. So I was also working at a vet clinic, and then I would say like maybe 10 months into working, so then I recovered. I recovered from the mono. I was feeling good. My energy came back almost all the way. And then all of a sudden, 10 months into working at the vet clinic, I was used to doing 10, 12-hour shifts 3 days a week plus school. And then my feet just were in excruciating pain. I could barely stand for an hour at a time. I had to constantly take sitting rest breaks when I was working. And I'm like, okay, something now is going on. I was thinking, of course, I'm like, oh, it's probably just my shoes. They're worn out, need new shoes. So no, I got new shoes, did not help. I went back to the primary care doctor. She did blood work again. And she's like, well, I don't see any negative things in my blood work. So then this is what she says. She says, I feel like just telling you to drink more caffeine to get through the day. And I don't know what the look on my face was, but in my head, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You, as a primary care physician, are telling me to drink more caffeine? What is that? Like, what type of help from a doctor is that? That was it. There was nothing else. And then I think I must have prompted her because I said, well, I need something other than that. Caffeine, I do drink caffeine and it's not helping. I'm still like falling asleep standing up, and my feet are in horrible pain. And so then she's like, well, I guess you can take some vitamins, like B12, I guess. So that was her. It was strange. So anyway, long story short, obviously I never went back to her because she didn't give me any help. In the meantime, I started the program as a physical therapist assistant. So that actually helped teach me how to do my own research. And I'm like, okay, I'm not getting help from my primary care. What do I need to do to help myself? I realized that I needed to be my own self-advocate because no medical doctors were helping me at that point. I did have a positive experience with acupuncture when I was 17. And I knew, getting treatment holistically was great. I was in a little car accident and I had sciatic nerve pain down my left leg. And so my mom found this acupuncturist, which was wonderful, and he knew exactly what he was doing, and the sciatic pain and symptoms were gone like within, I don't know, 6 or 8 treatments. It was wonderful. So I knew that helped. So I did start getting acupuncture treatments. I couldn't find that same doctor that I had gone to in the first place. So I went to this other acupuncturist, and I had some results, but not that significant. I went to him for quite a few months, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 months when I was like in my mid-20s, and it helped, but not that great. So anyway, I got married when I was 24. My poor husband. Because so when I would say the first year of us getting married, like all of a sudden my body went through another change, and I went through a severe flare-up, severe. I had such excruciating chest pain. It was worse in the mornings. So when I woke up, it literally felt like someone had like metal claws in my chest and was just trying to rip my chest open. Every single morning. It was horrible. Again, extreme fatigue hit me. I had finished college at the time. I was working as a physical therapist assistant, and I'm like, okay, this is a horrible cycle. I'm going to work at 7:30 in the morning. I'm coming home at 6 o'clock at night, and I'm just passing out. So that's not normal when you're in your mid-20s. And I knew that. And so, so then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroid disease because they did, blood work again. And then they had me go to a thyroid specialist. And of course, they suggest to put you on, medicine, the Synthroid medicine. And it did help some. I will say it did. So I was happy with that. But I still had the fatigue. I mean, it helped a teeny bit. Didn't go away. I was still very, very struggling. And I'm an active person. I love exercise. I love, playing with my dogs. I love going for walks, bike riding. Like, I never stopped, but it was always a struggle. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, especially just waking up in the morning. I would wake up and I feel like, okay, it felt like I had a ton of weight on my body, and I had to like really, really push myself just up out of bed to get going. So let me see. I started doing more research since now I had a diagnosis, because all those years from 19 to like 28, I had no diagnosis, and I was just kind of floundering for all those years. No one would help me. No one suggested diet change. No one suggested vitamins or supplements, nothing. So I did a ton of research. And like I said, when I went to school, it helped me say that I needed to focus on like reading medical journals and studies that were published. So you had accurate results.
Peer review.
Or peer-reviewed journals. And just to help understand what was going on, but then to also understand, okay, what changes should I try? What changes should I make to improve my health? So one of the main things is a gluten-free diet. That was like one of the main things that was mentioned over and over and over
For
again.
Hashimoto's.
For Hashimoto's, yeah, for Hashimoto's thyroid disease. That was just something that I picked up on as I was doing a lot of research and how to treat it the natural way. Since the medicine, really was only giving me a teeny bit of relief. So I made it my goal. I remember I was 29 and I said, okay, that's it. I need to do something, so I have a better quality of life. And so I did. I completely eliminated gluten. I also eliminated dairy as much as possible. I would just eat, I don't know, just like occasional dairy. So I did it by myself because I couldn't find no one at that time, was really helping me. And I did. I felt a huge difference in the fatigue. And guess what? The chest pain went away. It took a few months, but the chest pain completely went away. It was amazing. So I thought that was a nice win.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let me see. So I was 29. Felt pretty good. The fatigue was less. Still there, but a lot less. Then, let's see, I was like 32, I think. And then all of a sudden I was at work one day and my hands were just killing me. I had excruciating pain through my fingers, through my hands. Working as a physical therapist assistant at an outpatient orthopedic office, I would do a lot of hands-on treatment. And so again, I kind of felt like, okay, well, maybe I'm just doing too much, putting too much pressure, through my joints. So I cut back on, how many manual treatments I would do. And then one day my fingers, I woke up and my fingers were huge. 2 of my fingers just blew up like they were, very fluid-filled, pink, hot, very painful. Couldn't even touch them. So then, of course, the primary care has you go to a rheumatologist. So I went to a rheumatologist. They did all of the first blood work. Nothing showed up. Absolutely nothing. And she said, make sure you exercise, hydrate. I think she did suggest maybe a few vitamins. Yeah, like not even really dietary changes. I told her I was doing gluten-free and she just went, okay. She just kind of brushed it off. Okay. So I think she probably suggested some supplements, but that was it. And then I'm trying to remember. So then, so that was a huge flare-up. And they said obviously it's some form of arthritis, but they couldn't give me a diagnosis because nothing was showing up in the blood work. So I was like, oh boy, now what? So those few years in between of that first flare-up to something actually showing up in my blood work were excruciating pain. I had such bad pain in my knees, my feet, my hands, my back. Just all of a sudden everything was just hurting constantly. And it got so bad that, and the pain in my knees anyway, got so bad that I couldn't even bend down to get like a pot or pan out of the bottom cabinet. My husband had to do it. I couldn't bend. And like I said, I'm an active person. I had to stop bike riding. I had to stop doing any type of squats, lunges. I had to stop doing any type of like mat exercises where I put pressure on my knees. So all of that had to stop. And, that was extremely difficult for me because I enjoy being active. So then I was like, okay, now what do I do? So I started looking into, herbal remedies for pain and to reduce inflammation. And I also started to do some research again into dietary. Okay, what else should I eliminate? And I needed help. That was very difficult to try and figure out what to do by myself. So I did find a naturopath, and he was actually based out of California because I couldn't find anybody local. He was recommended by a friend, and he was wonderful. He helped me go on a complete plant-based diet. So eliminating all fish, meat, dairy, and on my own end, I actually ended up eliminating anything that was processed too. That made another humongous difference. I mean, night and day. It wasn't overnight. It took a few months. But then all of a sudden I could tell my body started making these fantastic changes where the pain was like 75% less. I could start bike riding again. I could start exercising regularly again without too much of, tweaking things to where I couldn't put any pressure through my knees. So that was amazing. Huge life change, which gave me back my quality of life. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Yes, to do that type of dietary change.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, I
Yes.
want to say something about food,
Yes.
and I'd like to hear where you were at when you came here, and sort of from your perspective what we've done and where we are now. But about food, it's extraordinarily complex, and in many cases you can generalize about some things. For instance, processed foods. You can really generalize about that. A processed food is actually not really a food. Every second a million cells die, and our body remakes a million cells, and it's in process. It's not like it flicks a switch, but it's in process. And our body needs resources in order to constantly build itself back up, and it also needs function and resources to clear out the waste. And processed foods do not provide those resources. I remember when I was a kid, there was a cereal that came out that said that it was, had all these vitamins and everything else. So what are they doing? They're taking the lowest cost quality, they're turning it into a spray, and while it's on the conveyor belt, they're spraying this highly processed grain with this spray, and then claiming that somehow this is going to be healthy for you because it now has vitamins in it. Processed food is not food, and I strongly encourage everyone to stop thinking about it as if it's food. Processed food is really a food-like product, and the only reason to have it is for essentially convenience or pleasure. It does not provide for cellular regeneration and growth in any way whatsoever. And in many cases, that actually really puts a burden on your system to try and get it out, right? Because once you put it in, if you can't make use of it, you have to get it out. So I encourage folks who are open to just not even think of those things as foods. So that was a wonderful step that you took from my perspective on cutting out processed foods. When it comes to meats and vegetables, it gets really complex because it's like, well, what's the sourcing of that, right? Because somebody might come to me and they say, when I have this, I have a strong reaction. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? Is it organic? Is it conventional? Conventional meaning that industrial farming practices. So, likely it's doesn't really have any minerals because the soil has been degraded, and it's grown basically using high intensity nitrogen fertilizers. So it looks pretty, but it's really empty. And then are you having it cooked? Are you having it raw? Is there an issue with food combining? So a lot of folks say to me, do you do food sensitivity panels? And earlier on in my career I did, but I stopped because I really felt that it was a huge waste of money. And the reason it's a waste of money is that a food sensitivity panel cannot be complex enough to replicate real life situations. And really, if you want to check on that, the best thing to do is a food journal. And to see, in detail, this is what I had, conventional, organic, cooked, raw, and this is what it was mixed with, and this was the adverse reaction that I had. Right? It doesn't cost anything. And not only that, but you build the habit of becoming more mindful of how what you're eating affects you, right? And the same thing with meats, right? There are some people that do extraordinarily well on very clean, high meat diets, and do terrible on a clean vegan diet, right? Almost everybody does terrible on a dirty vegan diet, like junk food vegans.
Yeah, that is terrible.
Yeah, junk food vegans. They have no energy, and their moods are very low. But they feel as though that they're making this choice really as a moral choice, which I understand. But you're really not giving the body what it needs. So everyone's unique. So for you, this is what worked, which is wonderful. And I applaud you for going down that road and really being the person taking full responsibility over the situation. I think you were forced into that, is what it sounds like, because nobody else was really stepping up, which often happens when you don't fit in a box.
Yeah.
And ironically, I truly believe that almost nobody really truly fits in a box. But if you can come close to fitting in a box, then we're going to circle the square and squeeze you in there. But now, a friend of yours referred you, I think.
Yes.
And what was your state when you came here? What were you hoping to accomplish? What has the process been like? And where are you now?
Okay, sure. So I came in because I finally was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis a few years later. It did show up in my blood work. And so over a few years, I still have the ups and downs. I still get flare-ups. So when I came searching for another, alternative medicine, acupuncture, my friend recommended you because she was starting to get treatments from you. And she said that, she really, really felt a positive difference, and it really helped improve her health and reduced her pain. So I said, that sounds wonderful. That's what I'm looking for. So after all those diet changes and things like that, and yes, the naturopath, he had me write a food journal. I had to journal everything. And then I did an elimination diet according to me and according to my personal symptoms. So I agree with you 100% that every single person is different, and every single person is going to, have a positive or negative effect with all different foods. It's not cookie cutter.
Even at different times in their lives.
Yeah, and at different times in life. Yep, exactly. Oh yeah, my body's made definite changes of foods throughout the years. So the reason I came to you is because after all of those dietary changes, and I did start a medicine for the RA to reduce the inflammation. So after all the dietary changes, guess what? All my pain went away. Gone. I mean, yes, I had flare-ups every once in a while, but again, it was controlled, and they were short-lived. Instead of my horrible pain, exhaustion flare-ups lasting for months, they would only last for a couple of weeks, and sometimes even less than that, and I would recover faster. So I was so happy to see all those wonderful changes. The only thing that was left was where it all started, my hand, my left hand. So the reason I came to you is because I still have pain and swelling in my left hand and in my left two middle fingers. And it does, obviously still affects work and just life, trying to use your hands. So, and I still have the fatigue. And I also still battle with swelling in my legs.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, the chief concern was this pain here.
Oh yeah, that was after the car accident.
That was the car accident.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So before the car accident, it was mostly the still fatigue and then the pain in my hand and the swelling. And yeah, and then I also always have like chronic low back pain. I think that was the other thing that they came to you for. Oh yeah, I had the sciatica was back. That's what it was on the left side. So that's why I came to you. Sciatica, left hand pain, swelling. So when you and I started getting treatment, I would say the first treatment I did feel less pain. And so I was really, really happy with that. And then the second treatment, I don't even know if I told you this, but after the second treatment, when I was on the table and you did all the needle points, I just felt amazing. All of a sudden during that second treatment, I remember I came home and I told my husband, I was like, it felt like my body was just like floating off the table because the pain was completely gone. And I could not believe it. After just the second treatment, the pain was gone. Yeah.
That's great. And how long did that last?
That's a good question. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I would say after that second treatment, it lasted, and I guess I would say that I quickly was making progress right after
again,
that.
if I remember correctly, because you have a very complex case, plus due to scheduling constraints and everything, we don't see each other. Sometimes we're regular, sometimes we're not. But you had seemed to be very, very happy with where you were at, and then the car accident happened.
Yeah. We were almost done, right? We were almost going to finish our treatments.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The pain and stuff that I was feeling, like the sciatic pain was gone.
Yeah.
The pain in my hand was completely gone. I know I'll always have some swelling. That's just the way it is because of that comes and goes from the RA, but that's okay. But yeah, I was super happy. We were almost finished with our treatments, and I think I only saw you maybe 6 weeks.
You might remember right.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was just like 6 weeks, and then then I think we were almost finished with our sessions. But then sadly, I got into a car accident, and someone rear-ended my friend and I. We were at a stoplight. Someone rear-ended us, and a whole slew of other pain started after that. So then, you want me to go into that?
Please.
Okay. So then, my friend and I had severe whiplash I had severe whiplash in my neck, in my lumbar, and also my tailbone was just extremely bruised. I could barely sit. I couldn't sit for months because it was just so severely like a deep, deep bone bruise and nerve damage, obviously. So then I started coming back to you on a regular basis because that was a whole other issue that we needed to treat. So you started treating me for pain in my neck, muscle spasms in my scapular areas.
Medial too, if I remember.
And what?
Just medial to the scapula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also the low back and tailbone pain was that was the worst. That was excruciating. So now I'm trying to think, like, that was really rough. And then, of course, because of that trauma, that put me into a flare-up of the RA. So then we were treating both,
Yeah. So that's a wonderful example of how delicate, once you're in an autoimmune condition, it's like dancing on the head of a pin. It's very delicate to maintain the balance because the body can be very reactive. And so staying in that state requires a great deal of sort of mindfulness and stress management and so forth. At least from what I've seen, so in folks that I've worked with. So this triggered it. The tailbone, you had it for a couple months. When we were treating the tailbone, this is for my own education, when we were treating the tailbone, because then this gives me feedback if the approaches I was taking were working. So were you getting relief? Was it starting to change?
I was getting relief like for just maybe a couple days, but then it would be very, very sore and tender still like a few days later.
Yeah.
So I would say specifically the tailbone pain, it was helping, but it was still short-lived for probably 2 months.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it finally resolved.
And then it finally resolved.
And the neck and the scapular pain.
The neck and those also resolved, but again, it took like 3 months. Because I just kept getting spasms and the knots in the muscles just kept coming back.
And do you have anything? When was the car accident? How many months ago?
Sure, it was in October.
It's October, and we're in May now. And do you have any residual from the car accident now? What do you have?
So I still have a little bit of that scapular muscular pain, tightness.
All the time, comes and goes?
No, it comes and goes. Now I actually wake up without pain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any more pain in the morning. I've regained my range of motion in my neck pretty much from before the accident. I'm pretty sure I'm back to where I was. And yeah, so the pain is significantly less in my neck and low back. Still a little bit low back achiness, but not pain. And it's if I bend down for too long, or if I, do something I shouldn't, like twist. That's really only when I actually feel pain. So so in October after the accident, it went from chronic every single day for like a pretty good solid 3 months. But of course with the treatments it got less, but then it came back because of the up and down with the inflammation.
You're a complex case.
Yeah. And then I would say by February or March, I really felt like all of a sudden I turned a corner. Big time. And then I would say end of March, I started waking up without pain. I would say the residual is here in the right scapular
that shows up
area.
in the afternoon?
At the end of the day.
End of the day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, tailbone pain's completely gone. I don't have any more nerve pain. The sciatica pain is completely gone. So yeah, I am so happy with the results. My hand, that's a struggle.
Okay.
Still.
All right.
I don't know.
We'll work on it.
It's gonna take a little bit more time to work on because that's been chronic since, like I said, I was 32. So long time.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, I'm so happy with the results, and it really does. I know another patient said the same thing as I'm going to, is that it takes a very, very skilled and knowledgeable practitioner like yourself to actually see results. Because, like I said, years ago, I had seen another acupuncturist. I really wasn't seeing any results. If there was, it was extremely temporary, and all of my symptoms came right back. So all these treatments with you, and the reason why I do keep coming back is because I'm actually getting results and they're lasting. So yes.
And that's important, actually.
It is very important.
One, I'm not the right person for everybody. And honestly, I try and recognize whether or not I am the right person for folks as soon as possible, not just so they're not wasting their money, but because it's very frustrating for me when I don't get results. Very, very frustrating. So I know I'm not the right person for everybody. But for someone with health concerns and they're on this search to try and resolve a situation or situations or improve their health overall, it's very, very important that you identify situations that are actually working, situations that are masking, and situations that aren't working. You're the only one who really pays for your health. If your insurance company is paying for my services, for instance, they might be paying for the cost of providing these services, okay? But the one who actually pays is the one who lives with the outcome. That's the real payment. And because the patient's the one living with the outcome, you need to be the one who's in charge and knows whether or not what you're doing is working for you. And what I very, very much respect about you and your process is that you know that, right? You know that about the food that you eat. You know that about the practitioners that you see and the modalities that you interact with. I think you've found a way to use appropriately conventional medicine for what you need it to do for you, and traditional medicine for what you need it to do for you. And you've become your own advocate, and that's laudatory. And I think truly this day and age, everyone needs to be that.
Yeah, you do.
They really do.
They do. Yeah, I agree. And you have to find that balance for yourself too, like you were saying. It's so important to make sure, right, the person that you are working with for your health is actually benefiting you. And if it's not, then, you know, that's okay. Just go find someone else then that will help you make those positive changes and, you know, get a better quality of life. Because if they're not helping you, then why would you keep going back?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It really, it's a joy to work with you. I very much enjoyed hearing your story and your processes and what you've learned along the way and how you've implemented things. It takes quite a bit of will to recognize that, for instance, gluten or dairy is having this adverse effect and stopping it. It's very hard for people. And you're able to do that. And it's impressive.
Thanks.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, you're welcome. I hope it helps others.
Yes, so do I. Well, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you at the next patient story.